Hey, everybody. So that house is way more together than mine is. Welcome to Friday Night Flock Talk. I'm Robin Sullivan from the Leather Elves, and I'm here with Jack Pine from High Red Bird. Hey, Jack, how are you?
I am doing all right. I have eaten entirely too much food, which I think is the point. Um, and yeah,
I haven't even started on the leftovers. I will admit that I scarfed a small piece of pecan pie before we started. So if I'm all jazzed up, it's just a sugar rush. It's all good. So hey everybody, I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving and thank you for joining us here for Flock Talk. It's so obviously Nick is in the Christmas spirit. It's very exciting. And we hope that you all are getting there as
Ho,
well. The
ho,
holidays.
ho!
Was that Nick? Nick's moonlighting as Santa. So, Jack, do we have any reminders tonight?
yeah. So tonight we're going to be covering Parrot Fun and Games, fun and interactive activities for you and your bird. But before we jump into that, we did want to remind everybody you want to make sure that you like the Leather Elves page on Facebook because that's where we go ahead and do these live streams. So you can go ahead, jump on there, participate in the chat. And if you like the Leather Elves page on Facebook, you will get a notification every time we start one of these live streams, which are always done at Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Now, if you miss out on one of the live streams, if you have something else going on, you can always watch them on the High Redbird YouTube channel. We've actually put them together in a place. So any of the sessions you may have missed before, you can go back and watch those. Anything that you think is important, you can rewatch those things, revisit some of the topics we've covered before. We definitely encourage you guys to do that. Robin and I are both also on Instagram, so we encourage you guys to go check those out. It's either going to be the Leather Elves or High Red Bird at Instagram. I try to make it pretty simple to follow us. Obviously, we share things like the information about the live streams before they come out, so you guys can see what topics we're going to be covering. But we also share a lot of fun photos of training, enrichment, and just baby animals. So there's a lot of fun things that you guys can see over on those Instagram pages. We do want to remind you, since Robin and I are both on the board of directors for the National Parrot Rescue and Preservation Foundation, that Parrot Festival is coming up. It will be January 28th through the 30th. You have about a month left to utilize regular registration before late registration. Late registration is a little bit more expensive and you don't get as many perks. So we definitely encourage you guys to check out regular registration. You can find out more by visiting www.parrotfestival.org. Again, I cannot recommend it enough. Parrot Festival is a 3-day conference with educational speakers from across the globe. We have some of the best avian vendors selling all sorts of materials such as toys, cages, and any of the fun stuff you may want as well in our vendor hall. And it is just a lot of fun. So I definitely encourage you guys to check those out. Now, Robin, I know you have something going on for at least a few more days.
We do. You have 4 more days for the BOGO sale through the Leather Elves. Buy one, get one free. No code needed. There are snowmen involved. It is snowing here. That's why I have my snowflake earrings on. But so buy one, get one free. You order one, you get two. It does exclude seasonal items, skewer kits, emergency kits, and I think that's it. We also we sent out all the advent calendars today. I want to thank everybody that ordered those. And Jack is going to be posting a video a day on the High Redbird YouTube channel, and he'll be working through that advent calendar with you guys if you're interested in that. I would suggest checking it out. I think it'll probably be fun. Anything with Jack is fun. So we've got a lot going on, and we know that everybody, most people are kind of, oh, it's Friday, it's the day after Thanksgiving, just kind of chilling. So we wanted to talk about Parrot Fun and Games. And, it's not always fun when you've got a parrot, but a lot of it can be. There are those moments, when you consider turkey, parrot, you go with turkey because you're a parrot lover. But oh, in jail again. Oh no, Frank. Frank, we'll get you a fruit cake for Christmas and we'll mail it to you and hope that they let you have it. So I don't know. But yeah, so there's a lot of fun involved in owning a parrot. Don't you think so, Jack?
Yeah, I think part of that is the way that you set things up. You have the ability to set things up to make them a little more fun. So, one of the biggest things when it comes to getting your parrot to setting up your routine is figuring out what your mindset needs to be. There are definitely times when you can make things a little bit more fun. To give you guys an example of little changes that you can do to make things more fun, if you want to do daily training sessions with your bird, pick a time that works for you. I am an
Mhm.
early person. I am up first thing in the morning. I am ready to go. So, first thing in the morning works for me. But if you're one of those people that likes to sleep in, trying to do your training session first thing in the morning might just end up making you stressed and frustrated and a little bit late for work. So figure out a way to make things fun. There's definitely going to be changes you can make if there are certain aspects that you're not finding as enjoyable.
There is one thing that, we do need to mention, and I think we're gonna get Nick to just record this and play it for us. Safety first. So any of the things that we recommend or we talk about with you guys, we really want you to always consider the safety of it. And if you feel like it's not safe for your bird in particular or for your situation, then, you don't have to do it. It's really about what works for you and is safe for you and your birds. So take that into consideration in any of the things that we're going to talk about tonight. And in fact, pretty much anything we talk about every single week. So safety first,
Right.
big capital letter.
Yeah. At this point, Robin and I have decades of experience between us. We can give you a general idea of what could be safe, what we have seen work for other birds, but we will be the first ones to tell you we do not know your bird. As the primary caretaker for your bird, it is your responsibility to pick and choose the things that are going to be safe, that are, you can set aside things that are not going to be safe. We always encourage you to observe your bird to make sure you're monitoring that safety. And that is going to be something you're going to have to do again and again, even if it's something your bird has gotten before and been completely safe with, even if it's something that was completely safe when you gave it to your bird. You want to make sure that you're maintaining that safety.
We've talked before about things being a snapshot. When you're working on behavior, it's a snapshot of behavior, and it may not be what it's always like or what it's always going to be like. And I think that's the same when you're talking about having fun with your bird and playing games and offering enrichment, that it's a snapshot. What was safe, a couple days ago may not be safe at this point in time. And there are numbers of factors that go into that, but you just want to kind of make sure that the environment is safe and your living room, if your bird comes out in your living room, make sure that it's with the holidays, things sometimes change, different things get added to the environment or taken out of the environment, and it may be a bit of a change for your bird, and you want to make sure that it's safe. So when you're thinking about having this fun and what you can do, consider the environment at the same time. All right, so one of the things we want to talk about is what does play accomplish? So playing with your bird, yep, it's great. It's a lot of fun, but what are you truly accomplishing by playing with your bird? What do you think, Jack?
Well, so for me, you want to make sure that it is fun. And it should be fun for both of you. It should be fun for you. It should be fun for your bird. If it's fun for you and stressful for your bird, that's antagonizing your bird. That's not playing with your bird. But if you find something that works for both of you, that's enjoyable for both of you, I would say probably the best benefit you're going to get from play is building that relationship between you and your bird. It's one of those things your bird sees you as this source of all things fun and wonderful. And, yeah, it's great that we, feed our birds every day and they see that food coming every day. And that's nice too. But when you can start working that socialization in, when they stop seeing you as just a food dispenser and something that they can meaningfully interact with. For me, that there's nothing better because you get that opportunity to observe things that maybe they weren't showing you before, behaviors they were hiding from you before. You get to see a whole lot more. To me, that's going to be the biggest benefit of utilizing play.
And I think so too. And Jackie said there's a word that you use that's really important in this discussion, and that's meaningful. So, play, it really should be meaningful. It's not I don't want to suck all the fun out of this, but you got to have some goals for this play, and honestly, I think that's the way you need to approach your relationship with your bird overall. That it's not just, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And yes, there are things that are spontaneous that you can do with your bird that, oh, this is a great moment for that. But kind of keep in mind, where am I going with this? It's like when you're in a room with a toddler and you don't want, to give the toddler the wrong impression. You don't want to inadvertently teach that toddler something that you don't want to see later on. I think most of us have lived through that with a parrot, or perhaps a toddler and a parrot. And so you want to think about, how is this meaningful? How does this, I'm getting fun out of it. Is the bird getting fun out of it? It's, definitely, Eva, you're right. Developing your relationship. So what other, so there's other stuff to it too. You mentioned, um, watching, if it's stressful for your bird and not for you, then it's not a good idea. So I think it's important that we talk about, how do you recognize that it may be stressful? Is there a way to kind of, you know, we've talked before about body language. So what do you think, Jack? So what's your gauge for something like that?
So there's a couple of things that you can pay attention to. Things like body language, and Robin and I have actually done a whole session on addressing avian body language. It is going to be, there are some general markers that you can use, but then there are some other things that are going to be very specific to your bird. So I definitely always encourage people, if you're not that comfortable reading your bird's body language, if you're not that comfortable understanding what their feelings are, record your sessions, your interactions with them. We always talk about recording training sessions, but when you're first interacting with that bird, when you're developing that relationship, seeing how they're interacting with you can be even more useful and even more important. Pay attention to things like, are they focused on you? Are they turned to you to interact with you, or are they trying to figure out how they can get away? That would be a really good thing. So where your bird's focus is.
Mhm.
Things like general body condition. Is it interacting with you, or is it trying to completely ignore you? A bird that's trying to ignore you is usually a sign that you have something that is not something they are particularly interested in. So those would be some of the main markers I would look for.
So for me, one of the things to look for is that overstimulation, because we talked about eye pinning and things like that. And that can happen when it's a good thing, and it can happen when it's a not so good thing. So you want to be able to recognize that overstimulation. It happens a lot with cockatoos. You're playing 1 second, and then the next second it's a bloodbath. And I think we've seen that happen more than once. And it's no recognizing that point when that overstimulation happens, and then knowing that it's time to end the play date or end the playtime. Because if you take it to that, you allow it to go on much longer, it's going to be negative for you or the bird or both of you.
Now, there are a
I
lot
mean,
of benefits that you can get out of play other than just that building of the relationship. One of the most useful, I would say, for a lot of people, especially uh, a lot of birds that I have seen, could definitely take advantage of this benefit. Uh, Play can be a great form of exercise. And I think we actually have a video clip of our friend Melanie showing the utilization of a Boing rope toy. Typically, that would be something that you would hang in a cage, you would let the bird play with on their own. But by finding new ways to interact with different things, you can encourage your birds to play in different ways, and it can be really fun. Again, for you, for your bird. That should be the focus. Even if you're trying to focus on things like exercise, if you have primary goals, that level of fun for you and your bird should always still be something that is on your radar.
Yeah, and I think too, the playing with the bird on the boing really illustrates that you don't have to be physically touching your bird. Your bird doesn't have to be on you to play. It doesn't have to be on your arm or on your lap. You don't have to have that physical contact in order to play, to make play successful. And Melanie has the boing and she goes back and forth with it, and it's just, there's no physical contact whatsoever, but you can tell by the look on her face and by the look on, and by the way the bird's interacting, that it's positive for both of
um, yeah, and it should be positive for both of you for that to work. Right now, Jack and Robin are actually probably lightly failing at a play attempt, because we did not let Nick know we were going to be talking about that. So I can guarantee you, I hear Nick frantically trying to search and
So
pull
this
up
is
the
this is
file.
not a positive experience for Nick right now. We have upped his stress level and his anxiety, and he's handling it quite well. So we're gonna move on, I think, and that's so we'll close this opportunity for a play date with Nick right now, and we'll move on. And if It must have been inspired by that. That was pretty special. So another thing that you can accomplish with play is if you've got those family members that are not so sure about how they want to interact with your bird, or not so sure about whether they're comfortable with your bird, doing some form of play, whether it's, the boing where they're not, that's a little bit close, maybe for someone who's not super comfortable. But over the holidays, you've got family members and friends coming and going out of your home, and they may be, oh, I don't know, I'm afraid of birds. Play is a great way to kind of break down that barrier. Don't you think so, Jack?
Yeah, like you said, it doesn't have to be directly hands-on. It doesn't even have to be something that they are doing. They can just be observing, and sometimes just seeing how a bird plays with another person can definitely help break down that fear if they're a little bit hesitant to interact with your bird. So I definitely agree that incorporating family members, friends who are maybe a little hesitant around your bird is definitely a good option. Just again, make sure you're setting yourself up for success. You want to make sure that if that person is a little bit scared, do they have an exit strategy for if the bird decides to come explore them? Because again, that could be really negative for that person. If a bird flies over to them and they're not prepared, you want to make sure that the environment you're in is set up for all of that, all of these things that we've already talked about. So yeah, just make sure that you are set up for success.
Yeah, and you want your family members who aren't comfortable, or your friends who might not be comfortable. You want them to think that you're setting them up for success, but you're honestly setting your bird up for success, because that bird that flies at someone is probably not going to get a positive response. And so you don't want to set that bird up to fail, because then it's the birds flying at Aunt Susie, and Aunt Susie's doing one of these, and the bird, it's not good for anybody. So it's all about setting up the environment and making sure that things are safe, for the person and for your bird, but mostly for your bird. But we won't tell your
Yeah.
family. So one of another thing Jack and I wanted to talk about was um, what play looks like. So, people say, oh, birds don't play in the wild. Um, oh, there you go, Nancy. That's a great thing. Just replying to the parrot's comments. It's sometimes just that verbal interaction is enough. to kind of, break down that barrier a little bit. And then maybe, the next time they come over, it's a little bit more, and it becomes more positive. So yeah, no, that's great, Nancy. I'm glad you're having that little bit of success. So a lot of people have said that birds don't play, that they're all about, getting food and breeding and just, existing or surviving. And I personally have seen birds play in the wild. I've seen cockatoos play. And so I think it's very important. And African greys have been known to play quite a bit. So, Jack, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, so we got to remember that in the wild, our birds are going to be doing very different things. They are going to be using a lot more of their time and energy finding appropriate food, finding a way to get away from predators. They are going to be very well stimulated. And when we bring them into our homes, we make all of those things a lot easier. A nutritionally balanced diet, hopefully, ends up in their cage every single day. So they're not having to work for it. So, what are they doing instead? We know that birds do play in the wild, at least somewhat, but especially when you take those challenges off of their plate, they're going to have a lot of
Mhm.
free time. They're going to want more things to do. So I would say that usage of enrichment and training to encourage those play behaviors is going to be a component of providing that optimum animal welfare that we should all be striving for.
Definitely. So, one of the things that sometimes gets problematic is when people play with their birds and there's excessive roughhousing or um you know and the thing is, unfortunately, our birds can the situation can turn negative super quickly. You're playing, and then all of a sudden it gets a little bit too, the little bites get a little bit harder and the nips get a little harder, and then somebody's bleeding and it's not good. So I would suggest, and Jack, let me know what you think, but I would suggest that kind of trying to stay away from roughhousing or excessive touching is probably a good idea.
Right, and there's actually a couple of other ways that that could become problematic. Obviously, we don't want to get into a violent tussle with our birds. You want to make sure that you have a really clear barrier there. You want to make sure that your bird feels safe with you. But also, when we start talking about things like excessive touching, um, you can hit a point where you are effectively, you know, asking your bird out on a, you know, down the road date, and they may end up having some expectations for the evening that you are not prepared for. I'm talking about using that excessive touch to stimulate your bird in ways that encourages breeding behavior, which you can do. You can actually push your bird into a breeding behavior, you know, set of behavioral issues just with that excessive touch by touching them inappropriately, touching them uh, excessively in places that only certain birds would touch them in the wild. I
They're
tried to make
special
that as
birds.
PG as possible.
That was good. That was good. So I think the oh, I totally lost my train of thought. Look at that. You were talking about the PG, and I totally lost it.
I broke that.
Um, so, but the other thing is when you think about breeding and the breeding process, it's a little bit rough sometimes. And again, that rough housing can be kind of like a hey, come here kind of thing when that's not what you mean by it. And you don't want to make those promises that you can't keep. So Bev has got the PG game right there. She's playing Peekaboo's a favorite at their house. So yeah, I mean that's something great. There's no fit. There you go, playing Peekaboo with Widget and Squish the bird. Uh, And so it's really about keeping it light, keeping it, Julie mentioned she doesn't like it, that it's aggressive, but that, and I absolutely agree with her. It's not something that you really want to start with your bird um, for a number of different reasons. And then somebody did ask, Eva said, how do you counter the owner's reply, but he likes it? So it really depends who that is for me. And Jack, you can answer Eva after I do. But if it's, my answer at that point is generally, yeah, a little too much. I'm not sure that's the relationship you're going for. And if they still don't get it, you can get a little bit more graphic. And if it's a child, then I would suggest that talk in very simple terms, but tell them that, it's not right for somebody to touch them, and you can get into that conversation with them. But really, my immediate answer, Eva, is usually a little too much.
Yeah, and you are going to encounter people who say for anything, um, talking about stimulating those breeding behaviors, but also certain toy parts that are unsafe. Certain they'll say, but my bird really likes that. Well, I
Mhm,
mean, it's up to you whether or not you want to focus on the safety and overall well being of your bird. And I guess not everyone wants to do that. And usually, if I say that to people, they will get very, very defensive.
mhm,
But they may at least take a look at what am I doing and is it that wrong? Because that isn't going to be my standard response for anything. I mean, you guys have seen how many live streams have we done? We cover a variety of topics, a variety of questions. We're always happy to answer your questions. But there are going to be those worst case scenarios of people who just don't want to be told anything. They are going to
mhm.
tell you they know everything that they are doing that is perfect with their bird. And yeah, sometimes you just have to bite your tongue and, try to avoid the stress that imposes on you.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And we had a couple of questions. Well, even Nancy said, "What about kissing birds?" Yeah, I don't know. I don't want the free piercing on my lip or tongue. I'm just saying. Um, and yes, it could be an indication of feeding. And I have actually seen a woman offer food and liquid to her bird that way, which I was like, wow, okay. And at first I wasn't going to say anything, but then I figured that I kind of needed to. So for me, kissing birds, it's not a great option. And there's so much that can go wrong with that. What do you think, Jack?
Yeah, I would say I mean, anything you're doing, you definitely want to be careful with. Now, Eva did clarify she was talking about an adult owner with rough housing in particular. So when it comes to things like rough housing, I would want to point out birds, their bones, everything about them is a lot more delicate than you would expect. It's a lot more delicate than, say, a mammal of the same size. Birds don't weigh the same. They do have air sacs throughout their body that make them look a little bit bigger than they are, but they're not that they're not dense. They can't take a beating. Their bones, again, are going to be designed for flight. They're going to have that honeycomb structure that makes them very lightweight. They're very durable for the weight they are, but when you're talking about depending on the species, less than a pound to a 2 pound parrot versus 150 to 200 pound person, there's not any remote comparison there. Um, Emergency vet bills are incredibly expensive. Avian vet bills, even if it's a planned procedure, is incredibly expensive. So I would point out those things. And then that's not counting the stress of your bird when they are healing from those injuries hopefully provided that they can heal from those injuries, which they may not be able to do. So those would be the things, Eva, that I would want to point out to somebody who is not wanting to give in terms of that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the other things is we need to remember, and we can remind our friends or whoever that may be, that they are a prey species and we are a predator species just by virtue, no, we aren't predatory on our birds, but just by virtue of where our eyes are, where they sit in our heads, we are a predator species. And so now you're talking about that 100 to 200 pound, 150 to 200-pound predator with a prey species. So you want to point that out. You also want to point out that, would they do this with your Great Dane? Kind of would be my question, And if the answer is, well, no, well, then why? Why is it okay with the bird? And I have asked that question in the past, and the answer has been, well, because I can. So yes, you can manhandle a bird. You can probably overpower a bird, but it's still wrong just because you can. So those are the kind of things that I would share with them. Oh, it absolutely is dangerous, Ray. It's not, there's just so much swapping of bacteria that it's just not a good thing. And it's just wrong. I just there's a I think Iris put it really well. Do we have Iris's comment, Nick? It was ew. So I gotta go with that. That's definitely where I would go with that. So the roughhousing, we're gonna try to kind of keep that out of the play. And so what does it look like? What's a positive thing to do? In my mind, training is a form of play. I think that, there's that interaction piece. You can make it into a game. We've talked about that before. What do you think, Jack?
Yeah, training is a great option. And there's a lot of different things you can do. Basic training is just going to be a lot of fun. It's building that relationship with you and your bird. Things like A to B training, especially if you have multiple people training your bird in your house, training it to go from one person to the next, asking for a few behaviors. At that point, they're getting an even greater social experience because they're getting attention from two different trainers in two different spots. They're getting that exercise, moving back and forth between those people. That's going to be a great way to build that relationship as well.
Yeah, no, I think, there are so many different things you can do. And, we talked about exercise. It encourages exercise. So you can do move them around, doing some protected contact if that's what works with, maybe people that are new to birds. You can do protected contact and it's like magic. Somebody who doesn't know anything about birds, doesn't really interact with birds on a regular basis. If you do some protected contact, some target training, and make it into a game, say, I'll bet you I can get them to move over here, and this, get them to move over here. You can make it fun, and it's the bird. If the bird enjoys training, it's positive for the bird. It's positive for the individual. So it's a good thing.
um, yeah.
I love Tracy's.
No, and um, no, and training is a fun way to play, but even just having your bird get enrichment in the same space as you. You don't have to be directly playing with them. Like, we're not playing tug of war with a toy. We're not. Sometimes just being next to you and letting them interact with, a small foot toy is a great way for them to interact and still have that closeness and that socialization with you.
Yeah, and it's that sharing of space, and it doesn't have to be anything physical. It can be just, it's like the bird version of Netflix and chill, you're just kind of hanging out, and watching and seeing what's going on and observing how your bird is interacting with that enrichment. It's it's part of play. It's uh-oh. We lost Jack. He'll be back, I think. He traveled. So I should probably say that I hope you all traveled safely last week after we talked about that. So There are a lot of different ways to do that, to share that space. Um, I enjoy what I enjoy space with Jack on Friday nights and with all of you. It's very enriching for me, and it is some fun, and it's a form of play, right, Jack?
Absolutely.
So, what kind of you can do it, you can play in or out of the cage. Um,
Yeah.
Things like, a fun thing to do for me is that callback. You can do, from one room to another, you can do a callback. You don't even have to be physically in the same room. You can encourage different vocalizations. You can encourage positive vocalizations, not screaming. So Jack, can you think of any, play that can be done while the bird is still in the cage?
Yeah, and like Nancy was talking about earlier, for some of the people who are not parrot people in our house or scared of her bird, that's a great way for them to interact with those birds. Um, you know, changing up things like what are you watching on TV? If there's a bird in a room and they can see that, listening to music, providing, I mean, if you want to go the full out animal caretaker route, being aware of what visual and auditory enrichment you are providing for your bird. Um, Changing things and making it fun. I have Mika, the umbrella cockatoo, who we've shown you guys a couple of times. He has a scissored beak that does have to be trimmed by the vet. Whenever that happens, since the vet is close to my house, he just gets to spend the night at my house. One of his favorite things to do, and I know it gets his full attention, he likes to watch Harry Potter movies on TV. So
Are
I'll let him sit and
are
watch.
you sure
No,
that's
because
not
he
an
moves.
excuse?
No, he sit and he moves so that he can watch it. He's very fixated on it. And it actually gets a lot more attention than anything else I've tried.
Yeah, no, it's true. And that's just some observation. You can see what works, what doesn't work. If there's a particular pitch of, voice that your bird seems to respond to, that's what you put on when it's, bird TV time and hanging out with you and watching TV. Eva singing with them, the vocal scales backwards and forwards with you. That's great. It's still that interaction. And you can do that while you're doing other things. It's not, you're still interacting, you're having some fun, you're playing a game, but you don't have to be, right on top of, and it doesn't require a lot of supervision if you're just doing vocalizations. The another thing you can do, we've talked about foraging a million times, but you can do like a hide and seek with your bird. You can say, I'm going to put these in, you tell your bird you're going to put them around and you're going to hide them, and then see if your bird can find the places that you put the foraging activities. So this would be something that if your bird was used to foraging, you'd show them, okay, I'm putting, and it's again super simple. You take the coffee filters, or you take a piece of paper or a Dixie cup and you put things in the Dixie cup and you put them around. And then you let your bird go at it and just kind of enjoy watching your bird do that. What do you think, Jack? Foraging stuff?
Yeah, and there's so many different aspects there. We had mentioned earlier the idea of peekaboo. We've talked to you guys. Foraging by definition is looking for food, but realistically for birds and human care, it is looking for a desired item. That can include you. That can include foot toys. That can include any favorite toy components. If your bird really loves a particular size of wooden bead, sometimes your foraging opportunities can use those instead of food. And then you're still giving your bird something they want, so it's something they can be excited about. But especially if you have a bird that's maybe a little bit of a perch potato, we can offer enrichment things without needing to add to that food intake of your bird, because we want to pay attention to their overall body condition. We want to pay attention to the exercise, the interaction that they're getting. And I think we actually have a video showcasing exercise now. Nick has made it clear he is ready to play with us.
This
All right.
is a great opportunity, and this is how, especially when school starts and you've got to get ready for school, or you've got a ton of homework, or you got to get on to dance class or soccer practice, you got to double up on what you're doing, okay? Exercise, one-on-one high, and give him a good bath. The only thing you want to remember about when you're bathing the bird like this is not before he goes to bed. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
And I
and
will
I think
tell
that's
you,
great.
and it's awesome. I love it. She's combined, the bath time, the play time. She's interacting with that bird. And I will tell you, this is a bird that she had never met before. And it was just, a fun interaction. And it didn't take a lot of planning. It didn't take a lot of, there wasn't a lot of thought that had to happen. She didn't have to set up anything beforehand. Pull out the boing, and there you go.
Well, and the other thing, like we talked about earlier, sometimes you don't even have to be the one directly interacting with the bird. We've got Jody in the background who's just watching this observation. And it looks like she's having a lot of fun as well. So, again, if you have those people in your household that are a little bit scared, a little bit hesitant around birds, maybe you be the one to play and interact with your bird and just let them watch. And that can still be a tremendous amount of fun as well.
Yeah, I'm going to correct you because it's actually Julie in the
Oh,
background there. And it's Julie's
mine's
bird.
blurry.
But, but yeah, and we've talked a lot about different things you can do. And I want to kind of make note here that none of these things that we've talked about tonight, none of these play activities are going to break the bank. There's not we need to save our money for our holiday festivities. And so but none of these things are going to that's right, it's not expensive at all. Cha-ching. um you know they're things that you have around the house. And so the DIY piece is something that I look at. It can be used as play. You want to include your bird in the process. I know Adrienne said that her birds helped making diet tonight, making the bird dinners. And it's just that sharing time, sharing space. It doesn't have to be 100%. You've got my attention. It's we're working on something together. So I mean, do you let Widget help you with some of your DIY projects, Jack?
Usually not if I'm recording them because he tends to get in the way. But if we're just building toys for him, he'll be a part of that. And like Adrian was saying, with using birds to help prep diets, especially if I'm at work and preparing multiple bird diets, sometimes it can be a lot of fun to, oh, I have this one bird that needs a little bit of extra special attention today. I'll pull you out while I'm prepping diets and, oh, hey, here, these are the apple slices that I'm going to put in bird diets. Do you want to pick which one is which one's the best? You can have the best one. And sometimes just again that opportunity for choice, getting to pick something, getting to find what's the best one, what's the one that they want the most. That can have a profound impact on their mental and their emotional well-being. And again, it drives home that point of all of these things don't have to be tremendously difficult. They don't have to be tremendously stressful. It can be just a matter of planning your routine in a way that provides that optimized care for your birds.
And we talk a lot about choice, and that choice is a big part of animal welfare. And this is a great way to see what kind of choices your bird's making. Jack referred to what's the best apple slice? Which one do you want? And when you're making toys, when you're doing like some DIY toys, you can see which things the bird gravitates towards. And then oh, okay, so he or she likes this the best, or he or she, enjoys this type of texture or this type of interaction. And it kind of gives you that opportunity to empower them a little bit to make more choices without, I mean, they can't talk to you, but they can talk to you, but to express what their preferences are. You really can get a better feel for that by allowing them to take part in the process.
Yeah, using
So
your birds to pick, if maybe you'll learn that your bird has a favorite color. I've actually encountered birds that have particular favorite colors that they like to interact with more when it comes to building their toys. So if you bring your bird out and they're always going for the red beads, maybe you want to include some red beads. That doesn't mean every single toy is just red beads. But by observing your bird as they participate in that, you'll have one more piece of information to help you take better care of that bird.
I'm really glad you said that about it shouldn't all just be red beads, because I used to have a client. I had a client that swore up and down that his bird would only play with blue blocks and things like that. And I was like, "But do you try other?" Nope, he'll only play with the blue ones. I'm like, "Okay." So he used to pay me to make all blue toys. We had to dye everything blue. And if that made him happy, that's okay. Not so sure that's really what the bird wanted, but so you don't go overboard. Again, we're not allowing the choice of the woodwork or the choice to run the house, but we are offering choices. And Julie brings up a good point too. Free choice can also expand their acceptance of new food items. So if you're putting things out there and they're making choices, if they're participating in the prep, you can see what goes in there, and maybe there's something new and they're like, "Oh, what's that?" And if they investigate a little bit, then you slip it in and see how it goes.
Yeah, I would say utilizing choice in that way is going to be important, not just for those food items, but for pretty much every aspect of that bird's care. If you have shown that they can get choices and you can respect those choices, your bird may be more willing to interact with toy parts that they previously thought were scary, interacting around individuals that previously they would have thought were scary, because you have worked with this bird and you have conditioned this bird so they know that they have a choice in the matter. And if something gets terribly stressful, they can say no, and you will respect that. So, empowering your animals with choice is a great way to get over those hurdles of things that they're afraid of. When they know they can back out of things like that, they're going to be more likely to interact with new things, to explore new things. I know it can seem a little counterintuitive there, because how many times have we heard, nope, they just need to get used to it. Just force it on them and they'll get used to it eventually. And I have seen so many birds that either get completely stressed and overwhelmed, or just flooded to the point that they completely shut down, that there's nothing they can do to handle these aversive, negative interactions, but to just shut down. And that's something we want to avoid.
And I think the fact that you're talking about respect is really important. That we need to we talk about observing, we talk about listening to our birds and what they're trying to communicate to us. But if you just kind of listen and don't do anything about it, then it's kind of a futile gesture. It's not something. Why bother if you're not going to change the way your approach is, or you're not going to change that interaction? Then that all that observation has kind of gone to waste. So respect for their choices. And Adrienne said that she's been offering choice in treats, and I think that's great. Adrienne, I think you'll probably have more success if you offer those treats that they do choose, and see. And I'm sure, I know, well, I'm pretty sure that all of your birds that are the same species don't always pick the same thing. So by allowing that choice, definitely, Julie, that sums it up right there. Freedom of choice empowers confidence. That's a known fact in human psychology, and there's no reason why it doesn't make sense for our birds as well.
Now, we talk about so many different, things to do, and we want to make sure they're all safe, and we want to make sure that they're goal based, and we want to make sure that you're observing their interactions, and there may be different things that you want to do for different birds. And all of that needs to be covered. All of that's really, really important. But one thing we did want to talk about tonight, and we thought this would be a good, towards the end of it section, making things for our birds and being able to provide for our birds. Or if you have friends with birds or even other pets, finding things that they can do to interact with their animals, different toys you can provide them for their animals. There are a lot of fun things you can do. I've actually talked to Robin about this before, because for a lot of her toys that are geared for parrots, a lot of them would work really well for things like small mammals.
Mhm.
So they're paying attention to those things, but I guarantee you, pet owners in your life would love getting, all of these different toys, these different ways to interact with their animals. And there were a couple of different DIY simple projects that we wanted to talk about.
Yeah, and I think the DIY is, and I actually, while Jack, are you going to demonstrate, or do you have a
I, I,
demonstration?
I, no, Gunner's napping. He would be the main one
Okay.
to
All
demonstrate.
right, so that's a no. But I'm going to steal a little couple of seconds here, because at the Leather Elves, we're considering a DIY club. And so since, we talk to you guys almost every week, I'd love some feedback, and you can reach me through the Leather Elves, and just let me know what you think about a DIY club. And there would be a small fee, but it would really, I'd like to see what you guys think about that, because I enjoy making toys like that, and I know that Jack does as well. And we try to do a lot of it, but I don't know, I'm not going to assume that others love to do that or like to do that. But just I'd love some feedback on that, if you guys would like to tell, please. We So yeah, just give me some feedback on that. But offering that to other people too, giving people the abilities. If you made something and it really works well, share it on Facebook, share it with your friends in the bird club, just so that they really understand, I guess, or see how interesting it can be, and how it's really catering to your specific animal's choices and preferences and things like that. So we have one more. Jack, did you want to show us that what you made for Gunner? Because I
Yeah,
think that would actually
I've
work
actually got a
really.
couple of things.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So, and some of these were things we just thought, if you have birds or other animals or bird lovers in your life, probably if I can do this without knocking everything over, one of the easiest things to use is going to be a tabletop perch. And you guys can see I did this one with a toy hanger on top. There's a tutorial on how to build this exact one. If you guys would like to do that, it's all basic PVC fittings. They came from the hardware store. I show you how to put in the toy hanger, use the vet wrap, everything else. If that's too much, this is actually easily modified. Just going to take everything apart right on screen. And you can just make a basic, just a simple tabletop stand. These I recommend having all over the house, especially if you have birds that like to go different places with you, because then there's always somewhere that they can go. A really fun thing you can do with these, if you have multiple birds, change the color of the vet wrap. Work on station training your birds to go to particular colors, and then when they go to different rooms, they'll have something that they're looking for, because they know I always go to the blue perch and you always go to the red perch. Paying attention to those things can be great. This is something you can put together. I'll be honest, I did this for one of our live streams when I just needed something. I put it together in, I think, 5 minutes. And a lot of people were just floored by that idea. This is something incredibly easy that you can put together. Right, Tracy. They are, just like adult Legos. You can cut them to easy size. Now, if you already have a PVC cutter, this will probably wake Gunner up actually. This is just a basic PVC forwarding tube. So it does unscrew here at the top. It's a solid cap here at the bottom. And then you guys can see that there are just holes. There's multiple holes at different levels. And again, there's a tutorial on how to build this one. You put dry food in here, and the animal then has to roll it, and they get the food to fall out as they're rolling it around. Yeah, no, he's still out.
Well, I can
Gunner
tell
is
you
actually-
with that one, we built one of those originally for Kia, and Kia are ridiculously intelligent, wonderfully creative, and destructive. So we built one of those for some Kia that were at a facility, and they would roll it down a hill, and the pieces of food would fall out. They would collect the pieces, then they would take the tube, drag it back up the hill, and roll it down again. So it's just, it's durable. It keeps them engaged for quite a while, and it's super easy to make.
And if you are concerned that your animal will not be smart enough, I've heard that a lot. My animal could never figure that one out. So I have actually built jumbo ones of these for some, let's say, lightly chunky livestock guardian dogs, because they are, over 100 pounds each. They're not this size. The ones I built for them are 3 feet. They're made out of 2-inch PVC. They're much, much sturdier. The Pyrenees were able to figure those out, but also chickens were able to figure those out. So if those dogs leave any food bits in those feeders, the chickens will come through and they're actually rolling them around. So this is a great way, again, enrichment can be a great form of exercise, and it's so much fun to see and to do and to interact with. Now, the last one I wanted to show you guys, this is actually a video tutorial I just put together, and this is a Snuffle Mat. So this is a fleece mat. I feel like I have to say if you are providing this for a bird, if you are providing this for any animal that could potentially ingest the fleece, you want to make sure that you are making those decisions based on their safety. It would definitely be something I would recommend doing observed playtime. And if your bird has demonstrated that they're not going to be safe with such things, it may not be an option for you. But it's great because it gives you so many different. Hold this, and okay, that'll work. So many different things that you can do. So here's the mat with like the fluffy area. You can hide things in there. That'd be like tall grass. Here we've got different flaps you can hide things under. There's pockets. There's things that you can work, food items or foot toys into that they have to work to get out. This is something you can put this together in half an hour, and it's a great option. It's machine washable too. And you guys know that I'm absolutely crazy about anything that's easy to clean and take care of. So being able to provide those things is absolutely wonderful. Oh yeah, I know, Gunner. It's very exciting. Huh? All right. You want to come up here?
I've actually made those for sea lions before, with pockets.
There we go.
Oh, there's Gunner. So I've used them before with sea lions with car wash strips. So they're, again, easy to clean up, easy to wash, and not a detriment to the animal. So, but yeah, I think the mats are great, especially for those birds that are willing to be down on the ground, ground foragers, things like that. I think it would be wonderful. You could, Jack, have you ever tried hanging one of those for a bird, or do you use them flat?
I like to use them flat. You could easily mount them so they're upright. Obviously, if you were doing something like this, maybe you wouldn't want to do the flaps because they'd fall out. But the pockets would still work. grassy area could still work. And the good news is, so the tutorial I put together shows you how to build each and every single one of those uh, different components of it. So you can pick and choose which ones work best for you. Nancy, it may look intimidating, but it really is straight lines. You can do it with a sewing machine. You can do it hand sewing. If you don't have the ability to sew, I will tell you right now, if you have any friends that can sew at all, this is straight lines. They would be willing to put this together for you. So maybe you just say, hey, I'm going to get the fabric. Can you put this together for me? And I'll, bring over a bottle of wine and I'll hang out with you while we're putting this together. Really, really simple and straightforward to do. And yeah, so there's the video tutorial that's available on YouTube. And again, there's so many different things that you guys can build easily that, some of them, maybe they're not appropriate for your size bird, but they might be appropriate for a friend's bird, and they might really appreciate those, those Christmas gifts. And I'm just going to throw this out there right now. As we are living through 2020 part 2, because that's basically what I think of 2021 as, nice gestures go a really long way. Knowing that somebody cares about you and your animals and wants to just try to provide you a little something to make your day a little bit better, to me, that's incredibly valuable. So I definitely encourage you guys to think about things in that way. It would help just make someone's day better, and I know they'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're definitely right, Jack. I think, it's those small gestures. And with DIY, the things that we've talked about, the things that you do the tutorials for, they don't take a long time. And you could make something for someone, and maybe it'll give them, if they've got a bird that's not playing or that's having some behavioral issues, offering something a little bit different, just something that you made for them out of a paper bag could make their life better for a few minutes. So yeah, there's definitely things you can do. And then Jane's talking about here a paper craft box stuffed with different materials, natural items like gum nuts and bottle brush flowers, patty cake wrappers, shredded paper. So yeah, it's super easy. And you can hide food items in there. You can hang it. You can use it as a foot toy, and definitely, easy breezy to do, allowing your bird some choice. So it's a win-win situation. And there's Gunner with his favorite toy. Is he interested?
This really is his favorite toy. Oh, yeah. Gunner, you want that? What is it? There's nothing in it right now, so it's not as exciting. But there's always a chance there might be. No, and with Gunner, it's really fun. He's actually learned he will find the longest string where he can roll it. He will pick it up and move it to those. And if he just needs to get it a little bit of a fraction of a turn, he'll use his paws to pull it back some and push it.
There you go. Yeah, definitely, Adrian. I love homemade stuff. I think it's definitely a lot of times more appreciated than store bought. I don't know if that's our generation, Adrian, or if that's still applicable, but I definitely agree with you on that one. So we've talked a lot about different kinds of play that we've done and things that you guys can try. And I think, the possibilities are endless as long as you keep it positive, as long as you keep it safe. And, I love that all of you are sharing your ideas in the chat or in the comment section. It's nice to see that people are sharing those ideas. And, please do, because it may be something that somebody goes, wow, I never thought of that. Nancy is self-admittedly not very creative. So you guys need to help out Nancy. This is a help Nancy campaign. But I love the sharing that happens in this community. And, when I thought about things I was thankful for yesterday, one of the things I'm thankful for is the amount of interaction that we get with you guys on Friday nights. And, you have built this community, this Friday night Flock Talk community. And I really, really do appreciate it. And I know Jack does too. Am I right, Jack?
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Um, yeah.
Yes.
No. On a serious note, thank you guys so much. You have made this a fun thing for us. I certainly hope it's been fun for y'all. And I gotta assume it has been, because just like we'd be observing our birds, we can observe you guys as well. You have the opportunity. You could leave. You don't have to stay and participate. But the fact that you guys come back every single week, you're excited about it. Even when we cover topics that aren't necessarily as exciting, when we have to talk about things like, veterinary care and, the basics of behavioral science when it comes to training. Maybe those aren't as exciting as let's build fun parrot toys. But you guys always come and you're always excited. You're always engaged. You really do make this fun for me and Robin. And we're constantly pushing ourselves to try to find new ways to provide answers to the challenges you guys are facing, or help you guys find ways to optimize that care that you are providing for your animals. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. And the only other thing I could add to that is make sure that you are inviting your friends that you think could benefit from this. Because I definitely know there are people who could benefit from seeing all of this information, learning different ways that you could interact with your birds, providing things for your animal. Because as we've discussed several times, sometimes it's all just in your approach that can make something very manageable or very daunting. So having a different perspective and a different way to think of things could definitely help some people out.
Yeah, I mean, inviting your friends and sharing that information. And just on that note, Jack and I just finished up Parrot Academy. We did an 8-week session, and it was a lot of fun. It was, some people had a lot of experience, some people didn't have as much. Jack is taking a break because he's going to be the head honcho at Parrot Festival, so he's going to take a break. But I am going to be doing another Parrot Academy with Jess Uliano, who is Creative Behaviors Consulting out of Florida. And she and I are going to run another Parrot Academy starting mid-January. So keep your eyes out for that. Or if you know anybody that might be interested in attending, or if you know anybody that's thinking about getting a bird, tell them to give each other the class before they give each other birds for the holidays. It's always good to do that research and learn before that bird ends up at someone's house. So I think, oh, yep, you can check it out on the Leather Elves page. We've got that BOGO going on. You've got 4 days left for that. Just keep me working out there in the snow. I have to walk all the way to the workshop to make those toys, but I will do it for you guys because you support us here on Flock Talk. So,
well, and okay, if you want to talk about staying working, one thing you'll also be able to see pretty soon on the Leather Elves page, you guys will be able to see all of those video tutorials for the Avian Advent Calendar. So you want to make sure that you check those out, because you'll be able to see so many different toy parts, how to use them, you're learning different techniques on building things, different considerations to make when building your toys. So we definitely encourage you guys to check that out. Even if you didn't purchase the Avian Advent Calendar, and you still could, you won't get it in time for the very first day, but you would still get all of those toys. The Avian Advent Calendar is designed to provide you more than 25 days worth of parrot toys. And I say more than because we'll have some parts that you can use to build extra toys. You'll be able to reuse some parts. So there is a whole lot of fun there. I definitely encourage you guys to check out the video tutorials, even if you didn't get the Avian Advent Calendar.
Yeah, it's fun ways to use different materials. And I think, it'll be helpful for people who are struggling to come up with some new ideas. So with Good thing that Nick reminds me of this every week, right? So you've got a little bit of time left till the end of the year. So if it were me, I would go for the BOGO and the, year's worth of free toys for a year. Any purchases of $50 or more made between now and December 31st will be entered into a drawing to win a year's worth of Leather Elves toys for free. That's 12 toys, one a month, or you can get them the 12 all at once. Whatever size you choose. We choose the toys, you choose the bird type, and we go from there. So get those orders in so that you can be entered in the drawing. All right. Okay, guys. Oh, and Jane, thank you so much. I mean, Jane gets up on Saturday mornings to watch Flock Talk. So it's Saturday sunrise sessions. I don't know. We'll come up with a name just for you guys that are over there. So you guys take care. Again, I hope that your holidays are off to a great start. And Jack, anything to add, or are we good?
No, again, thank you guys so much. Remember that we do a live stream every single Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern. We do share the information about the live streams before we do them, so you guys can make sure if there's a topic that's particularly interesting to you, if there's anything that you might have questions about, you definitely have time to get all of that ready. Next week, we're actually doing a very highly requested topic. And that is going to be providing care for geriatric birds. And that can be a little bit of a challenge because over the lifespan of your bird, you're going to have to change how you're providing that care and what your expectations are going to be when it comes to providing that care. So we're going to be covering all of those different aspects in next week's session.
All right. Well, you guys take care and have a great week, and we will see you next Friday night.